Okay, we're beginning turn 6, and the Russians have got some big decisions. I might have really put them in a pickle here. We only have 3 Russian corps here, plus some cavalry at Smolensk. The French are supposed to have 13 points, and they've got 15. The other largest source of points for them is over at Moscow, here, 5 points. So the French may want to continue, or they might follow Napoleon's original idea, which was to stay at Smolensk, consolidate his empire, go from there. The Russians, well, they could fall back to protect Moscow, but the French have kind of stolen a march on them here. They could get caught. And I've got Russian forces just very scattered here. So the Russians have got some big decisions. So I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to move the Russians into the French rear, because the French rear consists of really nothing but supply units. Now, it's also risky because these areas are depleted, so I'd have to have the Russians supplied from Pskov through their supply units. So that's going to be the strategy. It may be the wrong one. We'll soon see. So we'll do the Russian turn for turn 6, then do the French. The Russians didn't lose anything in their attrition, and I might be taking a chance here. I'm going to have the Russians try to move into the French rear. I've brought some forces down a little bit into the Bobruisk Mazir area, leaving a vacuum to Moscow. That may be a bad mistake. I guess I'll soon find out. So we'll do the French move, and it's a long way to winter yet. We have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nearly 6 more turns before winter. So I don't know. I could have blown the game already in favor of the French. Let's see what the French can do. Okay, the French lost an infantry corps due to attrition, so they were able to take on the corps that was just coming on the board. Now, I said the Russians were not in a very enviable position, but after moving the French, I can see that, man, they're not either. They got big problems too. The reason is because these areas are flattened. Smolensk 100%, Orsha 100%, Drissa 100%. Now the wagons are close by, and you can support from an area adjacent to where there's no food. But the actual depots themselves back here are way behind. So the French have had to spread out, leave Smolensk, because they're not allowed to supply in a fortress that has been already occupied by the Russians. So when I do the supply interface, I might get some unpleasant surprises here. So yes, I'll be able to have this corps rush to Moscow and get 5 free points. That's a given. You'd be foolish not to do it. There's nobody in front of you. The Russians, too, by their reinforcements, will get new men on the north edge of the board, way up here at the top, and they will get some new men on the south edge of the map down here. So the Russian forces are going to be able to eventually move in and maybe pinch Napoleon's forces. But this game is kind of wide open. Politically, the French are still winning. They're well ahead in points, but there are so many depleted areas, and the French depots are way behind here. I might have a situation where the French are in trouble just because of attrition. So I could have technically blown the game for both sides. Anyway, let's do the attrition phase and see what the status is. Okay, the supply situation wasn't that bad. Bazoy went to 50%, and these were thin enough with the supply wagons that it didn't hurt Mogilev anymore. However, I forgot to do this battle here, so out of turn, I'll actually resolve this battle at Bobruisk. We've got 2 French corps assaulting the city. Let's see how that turns out. Okay, that battle at Bobruisk is 133%. Rolling on the die now. And they roll 3, which is DR2. So Bobruisk will be captured too. I'll perform that, and we'll catch the video after. Okay, so the French took Bobruisk. We marked it with a victory port marker. The Russian corps had to retreat and is disrupted, which could be ugly the next turn. So at the end of turn 6, the French are well into the lead politically. God knows what will happen in turn 7. Because turn 7, a bunch of Russians come from the north edge and the south edge. And this game now enters unknown territory. Okay, we're doing turn 7, the Russian turn. Some new units for the Russians come up on the top of the map, way up at St. Petersburg. And down here in the south, some new units come in there. So I'll do the Russian attrition phase, move the Russians, and we'll see what happens. Okay, the Russians have moved. They didn't do too well in the attrition phase. They lost a infantry corps, something they just can't afford to lose. So I took the one that was disrupted. I moved up some reinforcements from the south here. They're going to begin to bother the French here in Kiev, Volnya. The Russians did move into the rear of the French, and they're able to destroy this supply unit. That's going to hurt the French for sure. However, this corps is going to be in a 100% depleted area, and there's no food nearby. This one's in a 100% depleted area, but he can live off the supply wagon here. So it doesn't look great for the Russians, that's for sure. But they've taken back 2 fortresses, which means the French have dropped 2 political points. They're still doing fine. They should have 15 this turn, and I think they're close to that. But the French are certainly in trouble too, because there's not a lot of food left in Russia here. There's these open areas where they can live, but their depots are way, way back here still in Poland and in Minsk. So the French have got their problems too. Let's see what they can do. Okay, the French are not in an enviable situation either. There's just no food anywhere. So I've spread them out. They're in Bazloy, Vitebsk, in this area that's 50%. They moved into Bobruisk, and they're going to assault Mozir. So let's follow the action after I've done the attack on Mozir. Okay, in that battle at Mozir, the French got fairly lucky. They got one of their corps had to retreat and disrupted. They drove the Russians out scattered, and they took Mozir. So I'll look at the political points and then do the attrition. Maybe the French are just hanging in here. Take a look. Okay, that's the end of turn 7. I've done the political points. The French are expected to have 15 points, and they do have 15. So they're just hanging in there. The attrition is really bad all across the board. Many areas are depleted, and I don't know how some of these guys are going to survive. Bazloy just went to 100% depleted. Vitebsk is still clear, but it's surrounded by a desert. So now we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty. The French got horrible luck in the attrition too. They lost a cavalry and an infantry corps. So the number of counters on the board is getting mighty thin. And we're going through a period now where there's very few reinforcements. So we're going to turn 8. The French are expected to get 16 points, so they must gain more points now. And we'll just see where this can go. Okay, the Russians didn't lose anything in attrition. The rules are silent on something that is rather disturbing to me. When there's no Union or French units in a fortress, can a Russian leader take it back? There's no rule that says it cannot. So maybe that's what this myriad of French leaders should be used for garrisoning maybe fortresses in the rear. I feel a bit guilty about taking a fortress with a leader, but, well, it's missing in the rules. There's another thing about the battle system that I'm a little curious about. Because you can only stack for combat, how do you simulate a battle like Borodino, where you've got, let's say, 9 corps on one side and 9 corps on the other? The only way you could really simulate it is if, let's say you had a Russian corps here all by itself, then the French stack a whole bunch of corps, hit that corps, it's destroyed or retreated, then the Russians come back in with 9 corps against the other 9 corps. That's the only way you can simulate a large battle unless I'm doing something wrong, but that's what the rules say. You can only stack for combat. So that's maybe a little anomaly of the way the game works. Anyway, the Russians are making one counterattack here, and we'll see how that goes. They've infiltrated and taken these forts in the back here, so the French are going to have to take them back or begin to fall behind in their political losses. Let's see how this battle goes down here. The Russians won that battle down here. Wasn't much of a victory, though. They just scattered the French unit. Didn't even destroy it because it was not disrupted a second time. So the French will move now after taking their attrition, and they're going to have to get some points or start to suffer political losses. Okay, the French got lucky there and didn't suffer any attrition losses. Now that corps rushed ahead and captured Moscow, which gives the French 5 political points. So politically, they're going to be doing fine. They should have 16 this turn, and I think they have about 18. So capture of Moscow is going to solve their political problems for a while. They will have to hold on to what they have, and not sure if they can do that. It looks pretty good, but there's so many depleted areas that I don't know. Can't say which way this game's going to go. Now, this is going to be able to take back Nunenberg because a real unit can always push a leader unit back. So that's the French turn for turn 8. They're winning politically, and they seem to be winning militarily also. In the attrition phase, the Russians lost another cavalry corps. Now they are in an absolute desperate situation. I'm actually having this corps leave Riga, try to take some stuff in the rear. I mean, there isn't a thing to stop them, so they might be able to rake up some points there. On the ground, they're pitifully weak. A few corps here, supply units. They're getting their supply from Pskov here, and they're desperately trying to take back Mozir, the big attack here. We'll follow the action after I've done the attack. Okay, the Russians took back Mozir. The French are probably still okay for VP, but they have their move to do, and it'll be interesting to see how they're going to get through this desert, because once we do the attrition phase, I'm sure the whole area is going to be just wiped out. They'll almost have to be wherever they have portable food, these depots. So let's do the French move. Finally, the French got a bad attrition roll. They had to lose a cavalry and an infantry corps. Usually I take it off those forces way off in Poland, but I didn't this time, because Victor coming up will have to hold these fortresses against Essen, who may come in. But as a counter to that, I moved the French into East Kovno, so Essen may have to retreat back to Riga to hold it, canceling his offensive. The French, again, have spread out, except here they're making one big attack under the man himself, Napoleon, will attack Polotsk. Now, if they go into Polotsk, it's a 100% depleted area. Whoever occupies that spot will have to roll for attrition. So maybe I'll just put a leader in there. Guess that qualifies as taking the place. But the French really have no more places where they can get points. They just have to hold on. Winter comes in 3 turns. God knows what's going to happen then. Anyway, we'll do that battle at Vitebsk and then do attrition. Okay, the French won that battle. They did take Polotsk, giving them a point. I did occupy with the cavalry. Means he's going to have to roll for attrition because he's in the Polotsk area. Then we'll do attrition and see how the areas fare out. Okay, that's it after the attrition. I'm surprised Vitebsk still didn't get reduced. Anyway, the French are expected to have 17 points. They have 19. So the capture of Moscow alone is really keeping them in the game. Still 2 more turns before winter, but boy, are both sides devoid of units, one might say. So we'll go on to turn 10, and See what happens. Yeah, the Russians didn't lose anything in attrition, but they virtually have no units left on the board. There's a few corps here, and a corps up in Polotsk, and a new corps came on here at Tula and is marching towards Moscow. If they drive the French out of Moscow, they'll be down 5 points, the French, so that could make a big difference. A small battle here near Bobruisk. The Russians attacked and the French decided to retreat before combat. So that ends the Russian turn. Now the French. Okay, it's beginning to look a little ridiculous right now. The French took back this fortress here. They're going to be supplied from Vitebsk again. And they've moved in force into Bobruisk, almost hoping to deplete it so the Russians can't get in there. But there's very few units left on the board, and it's only turn 10. Now, I'd forgotten about some aspects of this game, that you can just run out of counters, which is a little weird. I think attrition can only reach so much, and then that's it. But that's the game, and no battle. So we'll do attrition, see how it works out. That's the attrition after turn 10. Bobruisk here went 50%. The French were able to supply here off of Vitebsk because of the supply unit here. The French are expected to have 18 points. I think they've got about 21. To tell you the truth, I'm not enjoying the game at this point. There's just not enough counters on the board, and everything is going to be determined by this die roll as to who gets attrition and who doesn't. So maybe that's one aspect of this game I'd forgotten about in the Grand Tactical. Of course, I wasn't playing the best strategy either. Probably should have even moved slower. But I'll go another turn or so before winter and see what happens. Okay, the Russians didn't lose anything here on turn 11. This is the last turn before winter. Now another new corps came on over here at Tula, and will be able to march up and join this other corps. Now these two corps should drive the French out of Moscow. That will deny the French 5 points. So then we should start to see the game turn heavily in favor of the Russians, since there just won't be sources of points for the French. The Russians have moved into Polotsk. They're okay because they have supply here from Pskov. And down in the south, they're moving some forces back. They're going to go back into the Duchy of Warsaw and see if they can take away French points. So I think we've got a mini turning point here that I'm not sure how the French are going to retrieve this. Anyway, it's the French turn next. Let's see what happens. Okay, in attrition, the French lost a cavalry corps. And there isn't a lot they can do. So in the south, they're going to move into Mazir here and try to take back the fortress. Over here, the area is so depleted that the French army, even under Napoleon, can't really go anywhere. It's got to stay in Vitebsk, because the only place that has food is here, Minsk, and over here at Svir. And these things move slow. I dare not try to double force march them. So until the food supplies reaches the Grand Army can't do anything without this movable a depot. And that's going to be at least 2 turns before the depot even gets to Napoleon. So Napoleon, and then with winter coming up, I just don't see how the French are going to get any more points. And by then, I think the Russians will have retaken Moscow, causing the French a loss of 5 points. So that ends turn 11. On to turn 12, which is the first turn of winter. Things are going to get really ugly now. Okay, as I suspected, we reached a big turning point there. The Russians easily retook Moscow because they had a 300% attack. In fact, the French retreated before combat. They're now inching in to the rear, back into the Duchy of Warsaw to take more points back. The French are expected to have 19 points this turn, and I think they've only got 15. Now, if you do not meet the political points each turn, the French will lose 1 corps of their choice. Now there just isn't that many corps on the board. So in other words, for the rest of the game, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 or 9 turns, the French will be losing 1 corps per turn. Well, I doubt very much that they even have 9 corps left. Maybe 12 or so, but this is the death blow to the French army. But I'll continue along and just see where it goes. Okay, in the attrition phase, the French lost another corps, and I think I found a partial solution for them, but it's not going to fix the whole campaign by any means. I've gathered up an army here. They're going to do an assault on Mozire. They should take it. Now the supply units, all units in fact, are reduced by 1 in the winter. So that means the supply units that normally move 3, move 2. So I can't even get the food to Napoleon in time. But I forgot about one rule. I could scorch Vitebsk, which would be a drastic step, but that's what I did. And they now create a depot. So now Napoleon has food in the area he's with, and at least the supply units can move 2 in winter. Right. This is the death knell of the French army. We'll just do this battle down here at Mozire, see what happens. Okay, the French did take Mozire, giving them another point. But they're supposed to have 19 points, and they only have 18. Which means somewhere on the board, another corps is going to be taken off. And there's precious little of those to go around. So we'll take it off the Grand Army here, I guess. I now have something you see fairly often in this game. I now have more generals on the board than corps to command them. This is not uncommon in this game. So that ends turn 12, but I think by next turn, turn 13, we'll certainly be able to call the game. But let's not give up. Let's try again. One more turn, turn 13, winter. Russians going first. The Russians have hardly any troops left to do anything. They moved a corps, trying to get into the rear of the French here. This corps retreated down to protect Kiev because the French massed here could eventually destroy these corps and possibly get Kiev, which would be 3 points. Up here, the Russians can't do a darn thing. They've virtually got 1 corps here. These are just supply units. The bulk of their army now is hundreds of miles away in the Moscow region with 2 corps. I might as well march some leaders to these corps. This will be 3 or 4 turns before these units even come into the area. But the French are in bad trouble. They can't seem to get any more attritions, VP rather. So I'll do the French move. They're going to roll for attrition, try to get points, and then we'll see how the food supply is. Okay, I think we can call the game there. It's turn 13, or I should say turn 12, but the French are behind in points, so they're going to lose a corps every single turn. Now, I've counted the corps on the board. There's only 13 French corps left on the entire board. And with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns left, well, what? That'll mean there's going to be 6 corps left. Now, the Russians aren't going to lose corps because of political losses. These corps will keep coming on, one on this on any fortress they want in Russia. The Russians will get stronger. They'll get at least 5 more corps. So the French can't possibly win this game. It's impossible, at least that I can see. So, summary. What do I think of this game? Well, I've always said it's my favorite game on the campaign, and it is a good game. But it is beginning to creak a little and show its age. It'd be nice to see this game remade. There's no way it will be remade, certainly not by SPI, since I think Decision Games owns all of the rights to those games. Makes me wonder if I should take on the subject and do a game on Napoleon in Russia myself, based on a lot of these principles. Because this game was just terrific back in '72, and it's still fun to play now. Just because I blew this game doesn't mean that in a 2-player game it wouldn't still be exciting. Knowing what I know now, I think I would play even more conservatively as French, probably make more depots and just crawl forward with the supply units. I think I rushed ahead a little too often and maybe caught the Russians. Sure, that was good, but it ultimately isn't going to lead to victory. Okay, this will be somewhat of an addenda to the game. As I was putting it away, I noticed a couple of trays of counters that were not used in the game. And much to my horror, I thought, oh my God, I've been playing this game wrong for hours. But I was not playing it wrong. I'll show you what I mean. All through the rules, the term corps is used. They always use the term corps, which of course are these counters here, Army Corps and Cavalry Corps. But when I was putting away the games, I saw these infantry and cavalry divisions. Then I thought, holy cow, I am playing it wrong. Maybe whenever you take a step loss, you're supposed to reduce this 3-6 to a 1-4, which is rather logical. But nowhere in the rules, and I mean nowhere, does it indicate anything about step losses. The only time it's ever used is in this combat results half exchange. And in my game, I did not get any half exchanges. They're always eliminated or retreat scattered. But notice what it says. All defending units are eliminated. The attacker must lose units whose total combat strength is at least half the total basic strength of the defending units lost. The attacker chooses which of his units are eliminated, which might mean that you could make change with these other units to reduce losses. But nowhere is the term division used, which makes me wonder if it's just something left out back in 1972. But what, 50 years has gone by and no one's noticed this? If someone knows this game like the back of his hand and can explain this to me, I certainly would be willing to listen. Fortunately, we don't have the original designers of the game to ask this rather important question. But it makes me wonder if instead of eliminating a corps in the game, you reduce it to a division. Now make no mistake, that will change the entire game. Totally. But I was quite shocked that nowhere in the rules to this old 1812 campaign in Russia is that term used, step reduction. But it makes me wonder why those counters were included. Maybe for one of the scenarios? I don't think so. I think they always set up with corps. Let me check. Yeah, sure enough, the 2-3s and the 1-3s are merely reduced counters that are used in other scenarios. Had me worried for a minute. I can't believe it. I've been playing this game for over 50 years wrong. Anyway, that's the conclusion of 1812 campaign of Napoleon in Russia, the grand tactical game. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.